at Fuse Fabric, we are Shopify's largest partner in Europe for enterprise customers. Really work with the merchants through their digital transformation journey.
We took a £40 million brand and cut them over from their existing tech stack to Shopify in 8 days. We won out, we're going to keep it as native as possible, and that allowed us to move super fast.
For retailers to stay ahead, they've got to be really smart. They've got to be able to move quickly. They've got to have a flexible platform that gives them the security but enables them to feature up.
At $1.3 billion a year on innovation, it'll handle up to 40,000 checkouts a minute. Will the website go down? That's just not the concern anymore.
We're able to offer through one platform B2B experiences, direct to consumer and offline retail experiences. Before it was really hard, it was a dark art.
As a massive shopaholic, the way that we shop is different. There aren't many platforms, I don't think, out there in the world of e-com that does it like Shopify does it. Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of Marketing the Madness. Now, I do repeat myself here because every week I say, today's going to be an amazing episode, but it really is. I am speaking to two of actually my new but amazing clients. We're really going to be diving into the innovations that are happening in e-commerce, and we've got a lot to talk about. I mean, actually, this is a great subject for me because I'm a huge shopaholic. In fact, both of my guests today are probably behind some of my favourite websites, including Missoma and ASOS. So over to you. Before we get started, so obviously together you guys now run Fuse Fabric, but previously have been CTOs, like I just said, at some of my favourite brands, Missoma, ASOS. It's ASOS, isn't it? Not ASOS.
ASOS,
I always say it wrong. ASOS. Been doing that for way too many years. But of course, you're going to be able to introduce yourselves a lot better than I can. So I'm going to come to you first, Simon, because you're on my left, and I feel like that's a kind of clockwise way to go. Tell us a little bit about. I'm actually going to kind of go backwards and then forwards. What you guys are doing now, and then I'd love for you to kind of share your journey as to how you got here.
Okay, so at Fuse Fabric, we are a Shopify partner. We are Shopify's largest partner in Europe for enterprise customers. Enterprise is classed as anybody turning over northwards of 100 million GMV. And we implement Shopify, we design, implement, build, test Shopify stores for enterprise merchants, as well as integrate them back into their existing landscapes as well. So we kind of really work with the merchants through their digital transformation journey to implement Shopify. And
how did you get there? So I guess what my kind of instant thought on this is people don't always think of Shopify as the solution for enterprise, which you guys are really kind of changing the game in terms of what people are able to do, the innovations that they're able to produce using more flexible, innovative platforms like Shopify. So tell me a bit more about your, I guess, career today and what took you there and how you got to this place.
Well, I think both of our backgrounds have always been in e-com. I started originally at John Lewis as software development background. And then I sort of came aware of ASOS. So I was employee number 2 into the technology team back in the early 2000s of ASOS, and started to build out their regional platform. That's when we took them on that journey, up to $1 billion turnover, and took them, international as well. The team, when I left about 8 years later, was about 250 people strong. And it's just an incredible journey to go on. It was just one of those hyper growth cycles, that you just held on tight and just, and enjoyed the ride. ASOS was a magical time, and just being so close to the founder as well, Nick Robertson at the time, and just having that strategy that everyone was aligned to and getting behind was just super exciting. So learned a huge amount there. Whether it was from technology based or how businesses work, or and also the people, the team, and how to work and get the most from a team was really important, that cultural side. Following on from that, I went into a different field of finance. I wanted to change. I think it was just right for my life at the time, personal circumstances. And I ended up launching and exiting the largest Bitcoin exchange in the mid-2010s in the UK. So that was interesting, completely different, topic and challenges. And then moving on from that, I did some other roles, but then ultimately moved into global CTO for Emirates Group and looking after their travel division. So we're looking after 30 different travel brands around the world and looking after, an IT budget of £45 million, which, substantial budgets, globally. And really complicated, working with multiple teams around the world, multiple brands, multiple stakeholders, but still having that kind of e-commerce element to it, but with a travel lens. And then after that, I wanted to move away from some of the C-suite roles that I'd be having, and I became interim CTO at Missima. And it was at Missima that we became aware of Shopify. So I've known PJ from ASOS days. You know the exact date, I believe.
September the 24th, I think, 2007.
There you go.
Wow.
Yeah, somehow he knows it and I don't. And
So cute, guys.
Yeah, I know. This is the bit where we hold hands, right?
Yeah.
And we'd always, we always enjoyed working together. We'd always, maintained a friendship, and then post ASOS, we always cycled together and just spent time together. We always said one day we'll do something. One day we'll work together. But we couldn't work out what it was. And, PJ will tell his story in a minute, but he lives in Spain and I was, doing the interim CTO role, and they needed to Missima, and they needed to re-platform. And I called him up and I was like, I know you're not doing anything. Come and help me do this. And he was like, oh, great. Yeah, okay. I'll come and help you, re-platform. And that's where we started working together. And then we had the challenge of Missima and moving them on to Shopify, and that's where we started Fuse Fabric. But we can get into that in a bit more detail in a minute. But that's how we kind of came back together after many years. So
Love that. And I've also learned that I'm also saying Missoma wrong, which is Missima. So I've learned two things.
Yeah.
ASOS and Missima. And all some of my favourite brands as well. I actually was wearing Missima earrings earlier, and I've forgotten to put them in. Look.
Yeah, you get a very sharp lesson with founder-led businesses when you don't say it right.
Yes.
You're working for them and they're like...
But you don't know, do you? Until there's so many of us saying it wrong. I think that's a whole other education. So, PJ, I know a little bit of your story already because we've just been told by Simon.
Absolutely.
But give us the PJ backstory.
Version of it. Yeah, so... I met Simon at ASOS on that special date, etched in our minds. Yeah. So Simon actually interviewed me at ASOS. I remember he was quite tough in the interview. But yeah, I started. I think I was at number 7 in the team, and again, kind of went on that long journey from a small company to that £1 billion beast it was when we left. I personally started in tech. Started off being an engineer, I think it was, and then I realized that actually my strengths lie in managing people, managing teams, architecture, transformation. So over the years, I progressed into that role at ASOS, and I finished at ASOS after I launched ASOS China, which was a massive transformation. Really exciting. We essentially got to launch a brand new business in China with a whole new tech stack, a whole new warehouse, new office, new people, new entity, all from scratch in 9 months. So it was a fantastic opportunity to be in charge of, and it was great to see how quickly we could deliver for the business. And that was probably, having been in a company that's grown large over time, and things slow down, it was great to get the shackles off and deliver value quickly. So that was really a kind of exciting way to finish at ASOS. After ASOS, I moved into a CIO role at Encore Tickets. Encore Tickets has since been bought out by a larger ticketing group, but essentially it was ticketing in the West End and entertainment in the London-based area. And I had a great time there, some transformation work there, and then that's when my family came along. And so Anna's my other half, and she's Spanish, and we had our first, and that was kind of the point where I decided to move back to Spain. Anna wanted to move to Spain, so we moved over, and so since 2016, I've been living in Spain. And then I got in touch with, kept in touch with Simon through our love of cycling and any opportunities to catch up. And I'd call Simon over every year, and we do a race in Spain. And yeah, it was one of those races when we were recovering afterwards with some beers, we said, let's do this, let's do something. And then fortunately Missima came along, and it was a great opportunity, I think, for both of us to kind of work together again after a few years, and also, discover Shopify. And, it was it took us a while to kind of come on board with it. And, but when we saw it in action, we were like, wow, this is a game changer. And we know how we can really make it, valuable to our customers. So.
Love it. I mean, I think that's the thing is Shopify, you don't necessarily think, like I said earlier, is the natural choice for enterprise businesses because it's so widely available to everyone. You often think, small to medium-sized enterprises. In fact, I know lots of my friends who've got businesses that they run on Shopify. So I know from speaking to you guys previously, obviously, because we work together, that even you were like, oh yeah, like you've just said, PJ, like Shopify maybe isn't the right solution for us here. But now it's everything that you guys do, and it really is the platform that you're seeing, drive these innovations. So explain to me a little bit more why Shopify should be on people, why it's the innovative platform that should be on everyone's kind of front of mind.
From an innovation perspective, I think it's just the sheer size and scale of it, right? So look, 4 years ago when we started the business, we were skeptical about Shopify at an enterprise level, but at a real enterprise level, at that kind of 100 million plus level, Missima was just less than half of that in terms of turnover. But we recognized, we could see the way Shopify was going from speaking to them. We could see the feature set, we could see sort of the roadmaps, and we knew that the direction it was going to go. And we in the end of the day, we backed the right horse, because 4.5 years later is exactly where we wanted it, where we thought it was going to be, and we want it to be as an enterprise, product. Backing that up with certain stats. I think, don't quote me on it. I know I'm on camera and the microphone, but don't quote me on it. I think it's $1.3 billion a year on innovation, right, across thousands of developers in Shopify. They're releasing hundreds, of features, a year. So it's just that rate of innovation that Shopify works to. And they've got over 4 million, again, don't quote me on this one, over 4 million merchants on Shopify. So they see so much from an e-com perspective. So that roadmap is just data driven from all the activity of their merchants. And they process $1 trillion as well, I think, in revenues as well. So it since their inception. So it's just the sheer size and scale. And then you go, okay, well, it's great from a feature perspective, but can it handle enterprise load and performance? And it'll handle up to 40,000 checkouts a minute. So in terms of will the website go down? That's just not the concern anymore. The concern is about, what are we going to deliver next? How can we enable the business with a new feature? How can the business move forward on Shopify? Not, is the website going to work with the Black Friday coming up?
Yeah, and that's where we started with Missima. We were looking at it going, well, can it handle the load? Is it secure? Yeah. Can it handle international? Can it handle multi-currency? And very quickly realized it can do all of those things. And then it actually offers us a lot more. So typically as a CTO, you're trying to solve those problems. Suddenly those problems are gone. And it was more of a case of, what can we do now? So what features can we enable? And we didn't have to worry about data centers and CDNs and, all of that stuff. It was all taken care of. And it made us, gave us the ability to move much faster as a business. So that's probably what opened our eyes. It's like how quickly we got up and running and how quickly we were able to deliver value to the founders. It was, they loved it and we loved it. We loved being those enablers.
I mean, I think that's what's amazing. Missima basically got you to where you are in your business today, and you're now delivering this at scale for lots of, I mean, we can't talk about all of them, but some of the biggest retail names that, I probably buy most of my wages go on every single month. But there's been a lot of change. And I think that's the key with platform, like Shopify, is what it's enabling is that innovation and, speed that you just can't get maybe on those kind of, monolith old school platforms. And actually that's exactly what the market needs right now, because, the world of retail is a bit tougher maybe than it was a few years ago. Money is tight. We've had a global pandemic, the credit crunch or recession, whatever you want to call it. So actually for retailers to stay ahead, they've got to be really smart. They've got to be able to move quickly. They've got to have a flexible platform that gives them the security, but enables them to feature up. Sorry, banging the mic because I'm getting so excited about this. So I guess what I'm super interested in, especially as a massive shopaholic, is the kind of trends that you guys are seeing in e-commerce that I guess Shopify is enabling you to deliver faster. So, I mean, I'm a big shopaholic. I've already talked about this about a million times. So is my daughter. So, she'll buy everything through TikTok. I'll find everything through Instagram. The way that we shop is different. So what does that mean for you guys when you're looking at these kind of tech strategies for your retail clients?
Yeah, I think Shopify's, we've been, following how it's moving into social commerce. And, in the old days, we would have had to think about integrations and how we get orders and products flowing between various different platforms. And Shopify now allows you to enable, your TikTok store, your Instagram feed, your Google feeds, your Facebook feeds. It's essentially allowing you to transact with your customer where they are, not necessarily on your store, without all the tech. So they're building those connectors. They're weaving the order flow back into Shopify. So as a retailer, you're able to really get out there to everywhere the customer is without having to spend loads on technology and lots of developers getting involved. So you can see that Shopify is going down that trend of social commerce, and they've done it in a way where it all comes back into the Shopify store, then into your downstream systems. And I think as the social networks change and evolve, you'll see Shopify jumping on the back of it and creating another tick configuration in the back end to enable a shopping feed.
I think another trend is unified commerce. So I think the term omnichannel has been around for so many years, and lots of people have said, "Oh, we need to be omnichannel, and we need to be doing it," or and just struggling to actually put it into action. And when the unified commerce is the sort of the latest term, and the one that Shopify uses to label that type of features and functionality. But that kind of buy online, pick up in store, click and collect, ship to store, ship from store, sort of endless aisle options, and then linked into POS in store as well, and just having one, single view as a customer. But actually having those tools available. So I just feel like over the years, everyone's talked about it so much, but spent so much energy trying to just do one element of that. And now Shopify's come along and just gone, here's everything. Here's every type of model. And I actually think that COVID drove some of that, particularly with, curbside pickups, local pickups, things like that, pickups from store. So I think that really kind of drove that roadmap piece, but it literally has every option, which is amazing for us, because we sort of go into these complex environments where, enterprises have spent years thinking about this stuff. Really want to do this. Can you do this? Yep. We can just do literally every combination.
You can do it there and then in a demo, and their jaws drop when we do it. Yeah,
it's great to have those tools at your fingertips in those situations.
Yeah, and the behaviour of shopping online is changing as well. I don't think everyone is looking for pure online. They're all looking for physical experiences as well. So for brands trying to offer pop-up stores or a full retail experience, being everywhere online and offline is really important. So we're able to do that very easily with minimal tech. So you're able to offer those wide experiences without having to invest in a massive new kind of till system and integrate it all back in. And, so Shopify offers that. And similarly with B2B, a lot of brands are, selling, B2B and, drop shipping and so on. And Shopify is spending a lot of R&D budget and development into that area as well. So we're able to offer through one platform, B2B experiences, direct to consumer, and offline, retail experiences. And we're seeing that all of that's really relevant now. Some of our biggest clients are looking for B2B and D2C. They're really large brands, and before it was really hard. It was a dark art, and B2B is kind of the least loved out there from a tech perspective, but they're probably the biggest numbers floating around as well. So
yeah, there's been a lot of change, I think, hasn't there? Like, traditionally you would have had to get a certain platform for your marketplace or for your B2B side of the business, whereas now, well, I mean, Shopify are changing the game, really.
Well, we were discussing that. It's funny. You were discussing that yesterday with another CTO with a large enterprise customer, and I think he summed it up really well, which was, years ago, everyone was building monolith platforms because there weren't off-the-shelf platforms you could take. And then you moved to this kind of approach to best of breed, but it was best of breed to an extreme where your architectures had so many different components to it, and the success was really just built on the integration of all those different best of breed systems, which not many people could get right. And so many people are frustrated because they got sold this platform, they got best of breed this, and this, but actually none of it works together particularly well. And that just leaves people frustrated in their role because they spend more time trying to fix the stuff rather than actually take advantage of it. And now go forward a few more years and you're coming back to this, these Shopify type platforms, which are monoliths in terms of just large platforms, but actually it's all integrated and now it works. And it's not always going after the best of breed. You're going best of breed e-com platform, and then you'll live without the little 5 to 10% around the edge because you can get more out of that main platform than if you try and diversify into more systems around the edge to get that best of breed functionality. So it's weird how the journey's gone on. It was sort of circling back around, but actually now just doing it properly.
Evolution has been huge, I think.
Yeah, like a real example. So with ASOS, we built a monolith. Yeah. To begin with, then we went down a best of breed. So an example, an ESP for emailing customers, which then grew. Those ESPs now are ESPs, CRMs, CDPs, search platforms, personalization platforms. So that little product has really grown into to be able to offer so much more. So before you would have had a separate platform for CRM, something for CDP, something for search, and imagine the integration and trying to get them all to work together.
Yeah,
they're all coming back into offering more value to the people who are using the platforms, and obviously the more they can offer, the more they can charge.
Yeah, totally. You're both ex-CTOs, CIOs, CTOs, CIOs. Of course, I think for me, obviously working with you guys, from speaking to lots of other CTOs, you guys you've been through this. You know the pain points that they're facing. We've talked about a lot of them today. So when you're implementing Shopify, what are you helping them do?
So typically they'll come to us with that there's a desire to explore Shopify. They think it could work. They're not quite sure. Sometimes they think, yes, it is the one, but they just don't know how to do it. So it's probably one of those two kind of entry points. The not sures, they're similar to us when we first saw Shopify. Is it enterprise ready? Can it handle global e-commerce? All of those types of things. So we're able to share experiences, give them data, and really can show them what Shopify can and can't do. In our eyes, Shopify can do everything. So it's never really the issue. The issue is how you bring the rest of the enterprise along. So once you got them into thinking and believing that Shopify can do it and justified it and showed it to them, it's how do we get it in, and how quickly can we get it in, and what's got to change? How do I change my business and my processes to get Shopify in? And that's where we have a really I think we have a really good ability to work with them, to take them through a transformation, to really understand what they'd have to change to bring Shopify in. And behind all of this, I think typically the CTO has a C-suite mandate to bring down the cost of tech, and also that's one objective. But the other one is really tech is too slow. We can't move as a business. We can't innovate. We're falling behind. We're losing market share. So these are the types of challenges they're coming to us with, and they think Shopify can help, but they just don't know how to bring it all together.
I'm going to have to reference the person, Jasmine, who's been on the podcast before. It talked about getting stuck in your stack. Like, you're hemmed into a big monolith. It's really hard to move. And I think the modern innovative platforms like Shopify are helping CTOs and marketing and the whole business get further faster. It's, better, faster, cheaper, which is something that we talk about a lot. Yeah. But there aren't many platforms, I don't think, out there in the world of e-com. Well, in fact, there is none that does it like Shopify does it.
Yeah. And I think we talked about previously as well, the role of a CTO in an organization is a lonely one, right? Because, if you're a CMO, then, you've got demands from it. Basically, you've got single stakeholders, CMO, marketing or finance, you're sort of beholden, if you like, to one area or one stakeholder. As a CTO, you're trying to deliver across the whole business, from the consumer, customer services, operations, finance, you've got everyone bearing down on you with just demands, and you've got a limited. At the same time you're trying to be doing it, on a limited budget, and everything's got to be now. So it's a really lonely place, sometimes when you're a CTO, because you don't know quite know where to turn. So, and as you say, sometimes you can just be stuck on the platform that you're on, and you sort of try and double down on it, or you can actually make the business case to move to a more versatile platform such as Shopify, and try and get yourself out of that hole. But you've got to bring everybody on that journey. But essentially, implementing Shopify will, move the business ahead, substantially in the roadmap. But obviously, you've got to go through that transformation piece to get onto it.
I mean, how do you approach that? Like, as a CTO, and you guys, I know, help a lot of other CTOs along this journey. How do you even start to assess, but when you've got so much to deliver, all these different departments. I mean, it is why you guys chose to be CTOs, I have no idea. But how do you even start on that journey when you're looking to drive that transformation? You know that the technology that you've got in place at the moment isn't working for you. You maybe don't know what the solution is yet. What's the kind of process that you go through or you help other CTOs go through to actually discover, how you might come to the solution?
Yeah, I think internally you're doing a lot of discussing and talking to people and trying to get them on the journey and influencing, whether you're influencing a board member and having a board member help you on that journey, to the senior leadership team, to, other people across the business as well. But I think influencing and discussing and help, trying to get people on that journey with you is a massive part of it, because once you've opened that door and you've got to, do you know what, this sounds like this could be something you need to explore, then you move to that next stage. So you've got to get people on that journey. I don't think it's something that you can go off and do on your own. We often say that, in fact, we always say that technology-led projects in the field of what we do typically fail. So it needs to be a business-led project. So you've got to bring the business with you. You've got to bring your stakeholders with you, your board with you. And so I think that's the start of it. And I think that's sometimes just not talked about, because you're just like, oh, no, you just create a business case, don't you? Well, you don't just go off and create a business case on your own, because you need to invest in a business case first to get the business case. So you've got to bring people on the journey. Ultimately, then, though, once you've got that green light to go and investigate it, you're going to call Fuse Fabric, right?
Yeah, that's the next step, guys.
Yeah, and the whole part of the bit that we really then help them with is that discovery piece. It's essentially an exercise where they're asking, what am I going to get? So what's my scope? How long is it going to take? So what's the plan? And how much is it going to cost? What's the budget? Because essentially, at this point in time, that's all anybody wants to know. They just want to know, what am I getting? How long is it going to take? And how much are we going to have to invest in it? And then we can have a discussion about it. Some people come to us, as PJ was alluding to, different parts of the journey. So some people are skeptical and they're thinking about other platforms, and you have to go through that journey. Some people have said, do you know what? It's Shopify, because all my peers in my industry are on Shopify, and these other people within the leadership team on the board are saying, well, actually, all my other businesses are on Shopify. So it's Shopify unless we prove it wrong otherwise. And then some people will say, we're thinking about Shopify, we just need something quick. We need we need a quick view, with some level of certainty as to cost and budget, budget and timelines, etc. And then some people are further down the journey, which is, it's Shopify, we're going to do it, and we want to go straight into a deep discovery. We want to get some certainty on scope, cost, and time, and we organize discoveries, to suit that sort of approach. But it still boils down to the three things, which, what am I going to get? How long is it going to take? How much is it going to cost?
And you have managed to deliver some projects pretty quickly, from my understanding. I wonder, PJ, whether you could share some of the things that you've been able to do and how quickly you've been able to do that.
Yeah, I think the Soma is probably one of the use cases that we talk a lot about, where we did a very quick transformation. We took a 40 million pound brand at the time, and cut them over from their existing tech stack to Shopify in 8 days. End to end. So the whole business.
That was from idea
on a Friday night.
And what that means is, idea means, do you think we can get onto Shopify? That's the first time the question's asked. That's idea to
8
actually
days.
go live. Yep.
Yeah. It was great because we we took a look at Shopify seriously at that point. I mean, we think we probably can actually. This it has most of what we need, and I think we can transform the business where it doesn't have what they need. So the founders were behind it, and the leadership team were behind it. So we had buy-in. We had everyone focused. We had all the key people in the business involved in the 8-day project, and we ran it like a war room. And where Shopify didn't support their current business process, we changed the business process as opposed to trying to customize a platform, and that allowed them to get onto the platform as quickly as they did. And so essentially, we challenged everything. Do you need this? Does it really drive GMV? Does it really help you? What's so special about what you're doing? Why can't you do what other retailers are doing? And that was essentially good conversations, good robust conversations. Typically, but we won out with we're going to keep it as native as possible, and that allowed us to move super fast in that transformation.
Yeah, I always think it's a tale of two halves as such, because the technology was there, the platform was there in terms of Shopify and enabling us to move super fast. But then the other part of this challenge is the transformation element. It's the people side of it, and that's very much where PJ was involved in the delivery of it, and trying to get 70 people all aligned to the same goal and direction. And that's pretty much what we did. We got everybody into the room, we explained what was happening, and you can read about it in the Daily Mail. So it's not that it's not public knowledge, but there was some issues with security. We had to move the business quick, and we told everybody what was happening and why we're doing what we're doing. Everybody was on board with it. And when everyone's focused and pointing in the same direction with the same strategic goal, it's amazing what can be achieved. It's, yes, absolutely underpinned by Shopify as a platform, but it comes back to the people and the belief again. Similar to ASOS, which was the 155 plan, which is 1 billion, 5 years, 5 markets. And everybody was just pointing in that direction, and if conversations were happening that didn't align to that, then those conversations were stopped because it was pointless. So everyone's just have a clear strategic goal. And I think it's just amazing what happens when you get everybody on that. We talk about on the journey, literally on the journey. It's amazing what can be achieved when, everybody, because there's no agendas. No one can, go off and build their enterprises as, within their enterprise, as they like to do. It's everyone's clear about what has to happen. And I think that's genuinely how we made that happen so quickly.
Through that project, I think we started refining out one of our key principles that we worked with CTO on right at the beginning is you are probably not a tech company. You are actually a retailer. And what you're doing from a tech perspective is not special. It's really horrible to hear sometimes.
Yeah, we always have to say that.
And it really kind of sets us up for success or not. I mean, either we're working with a CTO who wants to build everything, wants to do something headless, microservices, and they're caught up in that world. Whereas we're thinking about, actually, you're selling a product or a service, and how quickly can we get your products or services to market and empower the people who drive the marketing and who drive the experience for the customer. So we've got a very different approach. So we always start with that again. So we are going to tell you, if what you're doing here is not unique, then we should use a product. And if you're doing it in a specific way, but all the other platforms are doing it another way, you should change. And then when that platform evolves, you get to benefit from it. And it's so key to set up the transformation. If we go on a journey starting off thinking they've got precious processes and precious tech, that's, you're going to get caught in, a long project that, it's not going to get them what they really wanted, which is getting tech out the way, move quickly, deliver value. And so I think that principle is, we really start with that at the beginning as well, making sure we're aligned, that you are actually, you are trying to deliver value as opposed to just deliver tech and more exciting microservices and headless architectures.
I mean, I hope most of our lovely listeners today have got their jaws dropping, because the fact that you guys were able to deliver that in 8 days is just incredible. And I think that shows the capabilities, the speed, the innovations that Shopify is able to deliver super, super quickly. But of course, to let tech get out the way and let the brand be a retailer, that's really what you're enabling here.
We also had a challenge from the CIO at Flying Tiger. So Flying Tiger, for those of you know, European brand with 900 retail stores, and we run their e-commerce as well. They were currently selling in English only. They wanted to localize. We were like, well, we can do it. We're ready to go. And he was like, well, come on in. And so essentially we signed ourselves up to a 24-hour turnaround to launch 27 languages and currencies literally overnight.
Wow.
And the tech was there. It was just that there was a perception that we couldn't do it. And we showed you could do it. The platform supports it, so it's only their imagination or their ability to operate in that way that was holding them back. And if that were the old days, that would have, that's many months, if not, years of project that we were able to unleash in 24 hours. That was a great journey as well. It just shows it's just the platform's there to go with you when you're ready.
Yeah, I think those use cases are really important though, because you don't know. I've worked in digital transformation agencies, probably majority of my career pre running my own business, which is still working with digital transformation businesses. But it was months. We were going through waterfall processes where it was months, sometimes years. And supposedly that was fast back then. But we were going through these waterfall, non-agile approaches to delivering these huge digital transformation projects on Sitecore or Adobe or whatever it might be. So to hear that, and I remember, when we were doing localized, look, of course, technology has moved on a lot in the last few years, but we were having to get writers in to localize content across 40 different countries when we were doing things like that. So to hear that you can do that in a day it is incredible. It really is.
It's also approach. As technology's changed, and I think our approach is changing as well. I think that sort of the modern CTO is also willing to take a few more risks and to drive the business a bit more, rather than just being told by the business, this is how we want to work, this is what we need. Actually, I think the tables are turning to go, well, actually, the platforms do it this way and they do it for a reason. Therefore, we will adjust your business processes to the platform unless it absolutely breaks the business for some reason, or there's a competitive advantage to do it differently. Then actually, we can get speed by adopting the way the platforms operate. So I think there's that change, and I think there's also, rather than trying to achieve 100% every time, let's go to 85, 90%, and let's try that and let's test and learn it. And what do we really need that last 10, 15%? Because that last 10, 15% is always the hardest. 10, 15% is going to take the longest. It's going to be more expensive. It's going to, so I just think that mentality's changed, where the modern CTO is like, you know what? Unless you can really justify it, then we're going to go with the platform way. And then I think Flying Tiger is another example of that, where their whole kind of mandate, if you like, the way they drive requirements is they first start with, how does Shopify do it? That is the first question they ask now. Every new piece of functionality, how does Shopify do that? Okay, why do we need to do it differently? That literally is a genuine question every project they start with, which I think is a really great mentality to have, because now they're moving so fast, because they'll only change it if they absolutely have to, as I said, or it provides a competitive advantage.
Yeah, well, the technology is truly helping them step aside and deliver, a great digital experience, and that's what it's got to be about, right? We're in a very competitive marketplace right now. So I'm going to finish off by asking, I think you've dialed into something quite interesting there. The modern CTO, the world has changed massively. So, how CTOs operate, how they need to engage with the rest of the business, how the kind of, the things that they're responsible for, everything's changed. If you were giving a CTO advice today in terms of how to become that modern CTO, what advice would you be giving them?
I think in retail, at least, as I said, it used to be more, I need a big team, right? Because that means something. I have lots of people. I don't know what it means, but apparently it did. And we're going to build everything from scratch because we're unique and we're a unique retailer and everything we do is different. And I think my advice would be, actually, your product, your service is what's going to differentiate you as a retailer. Your technology is more commodity, is not going to differentiate you. So choose the platforms. You don't need a best of breed to the nth degree either, because that's going to create more complexity. But choose that all-encompassing platform. Choose Shopify. plug and choose Shopify. But also work with partners, and again, that's not because we are a partner. This is genuine. If I look to, people I know, CTOs, existing customers, and people I know in the industry, they're moving more towards that model of just working with partners that have that expertise in those technology sets. They don't take this the right way, don't have the overhead of necessarily managing a large internal team, and instead managing a partner. So manage the technology and manage the partners rather than trying to build it all from scratch, whether that's technology or building a team.
Anything to add, PJ?
No, I think it's fewer partners, fewer platforms, and it's about the skill of choosing the right platform that's got that innovative roadmap, and then having good partners to support you. I think that's the key, I think.
So links wise, guys, today I feel that there's going to be a few. So obviously I'm going to put all the links to Fuse Fabric and to both Simon and PJ in the show notes. I know we've got some quite cool content coming up. So depending on release dates, there might be some additional resources that we're able to share or we add back to the show notes later. But yeah, just a huge thank you for both of you joining today, for sharing so much. Honestly, over the last few weeks of working with you guys, you've really opened my eyes up to what's possible and how technology is evolving and changing, and helping me spend more money online. So thanks for that.
And thank you for having us on.
Yeah, thanks for having us.